many people do, or they build off of the skills and the interests that they have as a hobby, and they translate it into the world of work. So sometimes conversations start with that. What do you like to do for fun? What are your interests? Number 4, I should choose a career. One of the reasons that's not necessarily the best approach is because the best career list may involve careers that A, don't have the interests that you have, B, it may not be the skill set that you have, and it may not meet your values. So looking at those lists aren't a bad thing. It gives you some kind of idea of what are the growing occupation, what are the highest paying occupations, those types of things. But utilizing that list alone isn't going to probably get you to match with the best possible career. And myth number 5, making a lot of money will make me happy. Some people like to maybe disagree and argue with me that a little bit. Money is a good thing, and that's primary reason why we all work. But just focusing on highest paying jobs aren't necessarily going to be the best way to navigate how you're going to choose your career. I have worked with a lot of returning adults that have made a lot of money, but they're experiencing so much job stress that they're not experiencing that job satisfaction anymore. So we all know that money is a component to our world of work and to our work life, but we also don't want to just fixate and focus just on the money aspect of it. 6, once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. Actually, with changing technology, jobs are changing fairly rapidly. So most people will navigate 6 to 8 different careers in their lifetime. And I'm not talking about jobs, I'm actually talking about careers. So really using a different skill set and attracting a different area of interest. I work with a lot of career changers, taking their skills from one career and transferring them to something completely different. And that kind of addresses myth number 7. Number 8, how many of you find that other people have suggestions on maybe what you should do? How many of you are hearing, you should do this, or you should try that, or have you considered? Usually when we acknowledge to people that we're looking to either go back to school or change careers, people around us tend to have a lot of advice. It's not bad to listen to that advice and take that in, but oftentimes that advice comes from what they like or what works for them. So we really want to make this about you and what's important to you. So just because your best friend is doing it and loves it doesn't mean that that's going to be a fit for you. 9, all I have to do is pick an occupation and things will fall into place after that. That kind of goes back to my comment that career planning is actually a lifelong process if you're doing it right. You should be periodically reevaluating, what you're doing, what's working, what isn't, to sort of navigate to be in that perfect place. Okay, now I lost my, and then finally, there's very little I can do in learning about an occupation without actually working in it. And I'll talk a little bit about what career exploration looks like, what's the best way to approach that. Because oftentimes it feels really difficult for people to really conceptualize or understand like what that job is going to be unless they're actually doing it. So we'll talk about ways that you can navigate that career exploration. So at Fox Valley Technical College, we offer career planning in 2 different formats. One is one-on-one, so our counseling and advising office, we have 4 or 5 career counselors that meet with prospective students one-on-one for appointments and sit down with you and sort of explore where you're at, where you think you want to go, and then helping you figure out the plan to get there. And we also offer career development workshops, which is what we try to get most students to participate in. It's a 6-hour career workshop, and I have some flyers over there on the chair, and they're actually in different parts throughout the college tonight. And if you tell anybody you're not sure what program you may be interested in or signing up for, chances are somebody's going to hand you one of those green flyers with our workshop dates. Just to give you kind of an overview of what that workshop consists of, it's a 3-step process. The first step is, in my opinion, the most important, and that's the self-awareness and personal assessment. So we do utilize some of those paper pencil inventories, but as part of that, we have an ongoing dialogue in tapping into you, how you see yourself. You know, what do you see as your strong and most dominant personality traits? What are your values? What's important to you? Because if we align what's important to us and it matches to our career, that's when we see people being most satisfied. A lot of times we think of, what do I like to do and what am I good at? And those are good things to consider when you're trying to match yourself with a career. What do I like to do and what I'm good at? But what is equally and sometimes even more important is what is important to me. Like, what's important to me in life? What's important to me in fulfilling for me? And then we want to try to navigate exploring work that will match with that. And then also motivation. Motivation plays a key. You know, how motivated am I to pursue this? How much education is this going to require if I pursue a certain occupation? How much continuing education might I have to pursue once I choose that chosen field? So, you know, how much time, money, energy, all those things come into play. So I always tell people, we look at your individual circumstances and we look at as much information as you can share that you know about yourself. So the more self-aware you are, the easier this process is. And what we find is that, you know, we work with students anywhere from 16 and 17 to people in their 60s doing this career planning process. And obviously, the older we are, the more life experiences we have, and typically we tend to be more self-aware. So once again, that's why we kind of put out there, career planning is really a lifelong process, because what you know about yourself at 40, you probably didn't know about yourself or some of those things about yourself when you were 18. So we work with you where you're at, and we sort of, I always use the analogy of it's like putting a puzzle together. So we ask you to kind of give us the picture to those puzzle pieces, and we help you fit those together. That will allow us then to move to step 2, which is identifying occupations that might fit your puzzle based on the information that you've shared with us. So for example, if you share with us that, you know, you have an interest in working with people and you value helping others, and you have good interpersonal skills, that begins to start creating a picture that you may be someone that fits well in occupations that have direct contact in serving people, whether that be a customer, a patient, a client. So that's when we begin to help you determine some educational pathways based on your interests, skills, values, and personality traits. We help you research the occupational trends because you want to know, like, how much would I make? What's the job outlook? Who are the employers in this area? So for those of you that haven't visited or will yet to visit some of the program areas to check out maybe some of the things that you think you might be interested in, some of the key questions that I would ask the faculty at the table would be these. What makes a good, successful student in this program? What are the characteristics of an individual that is most successful in this occupation? And then I want you to think back to that first step in terms of that self-awareness. Is that faculty person potentially describing some characteristics about you? Okay, or is it in conflict? They say, you know, it's somebody that loves working with people, and your self-assessment of yourself is, geez, I don't know if that's exactly what I want to be doing. So as you're asking questions and listening to the departments talking about their programs, it's really helpful for you to be self-aware. Are they describing someone that matches you, or is it maybe somebody that is maybe not a direct match, and that may not be the right program area for you? And then finally, we help you with that decision-making process. So we sit down with you and we look at, you know, what are you seeing about yourself and what are you seeing about occupations, and can we match those and find the occupations that are the best fit for you? We look at barriers. Some people might say, you know, I think I really would like to go into nursing, but I'm concerned about my math and science abilities. So then we look at how might we be able to address those challenges. Are there some prep classes that we could get you started in where you could kind of test the waters in that area to see if you can strengthen those skills and they won't be seen as an obstacle anymore? So it really, career planning really does go back to you in terms of knowing yourself and identifying those things that you know. And then our job as the career counselor, the career facilitator, is to help you see how those characteristics about yourself can fit and match with certain occupations, and then help you identify ways where you can do more research on those occupations, and then finally help you set those goals to figure out how you're going to get there. Everybody achieves their goals in a different way, so it's not a one size fits all. You know, some students come here and they say, I want to do this as quick as possible. Okay, I have this much time, I have this much money, and this is how I want to do it. And then we work with you in planning and making it happen that way. Where other people come in and say, you know, I'm just really reluctant about this whole school thing. I'd like to take some baby steps. I just want to get started to see how it's going to go for me and determine if I can be successful. And then we work with you on generating a plan that looks like that. So please know that moving forward with education isn't a one size fits all. And that really does come back to the whole career planning. So it starts with figuring out what your area of interest and skills and match your values is, as well as then how do we create that plan. So it really is, you know, that three-step process, both if we meet with somebody individually or if you go through one of our career development workshops. So I'm a very visual person, so maybe this helps a little bit. There is a handout on this particular diagram. So as you're thinking about careers and you're thinking about where you would match in terms of an occupation where you're experiencing some high satisfaction, what we find is people are going to be most satisfied in their work when they're doing something that they enjoy most of the day, okay? I mean, how many out here can say they have a job they really enjoy or have had a job they really enjoy? Okay, that's good. I want to see some of that. But would you also say that with even with the jobs that you really enjoy, sometimes there's things that you have to do that you don't particularly enjoy? Sometimes. The goal is to maximize the amount of time you're doing things that provide joy and minimize those activities that you go, I don't really like to do that stuff so much. So there's that interest circle. And then the other circle with skills and abilities is we all want to be doing a job that we feel we're capable and we do well. Because nobody wants a job where they're feeling a high level of stress because they're not quite sure they feel adequate that they can do it, or they are always questioning themselves or comparing themselves to others as whether or not they're being successful. So we also don't want a job where it's so easy for us that we're bored when we go to work because it's so simple. So it's really finding that balance of where we have a job where our skills are being challenged just enough that we feel like we're doing well, but we're learning and being challenged. And we're avoiding that place where it seems so easy that we're just watching the clock to see when the shift is going to be over, or our work day is going to be over, so we can go home because we're bored. So that's a conversation that we have, is what does that look like for you as an individual? And then the bottom circle is values, and that's creating that list of what's important to you. Okay, for some people, you know, it's pay. For other people, it's the kind of hours that they work. For others, it's a sense of achievement or recognition. For some people, it's a combination of those things. So really looking at what's going to create that satisfaction for you. For me, it's helping people, okay? I work as a counselor, and that value of helping others is fulfilled in my work because I have direct contact and my job responsibilities are about helping others. So that becomes very important to me, or it is very important to me to fulfill, and it does happen in the work that I do. So thinking about what that is, that's important to you. Some people like to work independently. Some people like to work with others. Some people like physical performance, meaning the thought of sitting at a desk at a job all day seems like pure horror. And for other people, you know, doing a lot of physical work is something that they would prefer not to do. So with the career development workshop and the one-on-one counseling, those are the kinds of conversations that we have. We challenge you to think about what type of work environment is best suited for you and what your values are and how a job can help fulfill those. The outer circle is life circumstances, and we also have to take into consideration the reality of your life circumstances when we're helping you make this decision. And that can be it can be related to, you know, I live in Appleton. I want to go to Fox Valley Technical College. I'm looking for either a 1 or a 2 year, a technical diploma or associate degree program. Then we're going to focus on careers that only require that, because we also talk about not only skills, but qualifications. So if there's a career that you're interested in that might require higher qualifications than what Fox Valley Technical College can provide, we have to have that conversation and look at what that looks like. Is there a program that you could potentially start here and get an associate degree and then get some work experience and then transfer and get that bachelor's degree to meet that qualification? That's all part of what we do as career counselors. We help you create that plan. Somebody might say, you know, I want to be an accountant. I want to be a CPA, a certified public accountant. In order to get that job and get that certification, you need a bachelor's degree in accounting, but we certainly could work with you here on first getting the associate degree in accounting, associate degree in accounting, and then help you transfer to a 4-year school to get that bachelor's degree to get that credential. So I kind of throw out a lot of examples because I want you to recognize that no matter where you are right now in terms of your career development, we start with you where you're at, and then we help build upon that and figure out how we can best create the plan for you. But it really does start with you identifying these puzzle pieces for us and we do provide you with some paper, pencil, and computer assessments to at least start generating that conversation. What do your interests look like? What are the things that you feel that you're better at in terms of skill set? And just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean that you can't learn that skill. So just because you don't have the skill set, that's one of the reasons why people continue with post-secondary education, is to develop a skill. So maybe there's something that you're thinking, you know, I don't know if I'll be good at this because I've never tried it. Well, we can talk about what the steps would be to maybe get you exposed to exploring that, to see if you have that skill set or could develop that skill set. So think of this as you're thinking about the careers that are maybe surfacing for you tonight to explore. And when you meet with the faculty in the department areas in the Commons, listen for the types of interests that people have that are successful and the types of skills that you'd be using. Okay? This is just a quick slide on career theory that we use to help you sort through your interests and skills. Just briefly, those 6 categories might not mean anything to you, but let me just quickly go around the hexagon. We look at realistic, those occupations are more hands-on, people that tend to gravitate and have an interest in skills and more hands-on type. Physical performance, could be mechanical aptitude, those types of things. So obviously the technical college has a lot of programs in that category. The investigative, if someone finds that their interests are related to analytical problem solving, for example, you like math and science, we would help you explore careers in that area. The artistic tend to be people that really gravitate towards creative occupations. Social, those people that are very supportive of others and want an occupation where they're helping and supporting other people, and that could be in human services, it could be in education, it could be in healthcare, could be in business and customer service. So we talk about that if you tend to lean towards that. Enterprising tends to be those people that are leaders and they like to manage or supervise or persuade others. And they tend to be more risk takers and competitive. So if those tend to be traits of yours, as we listen and explore that self-awareness component, we might categorize you there. And then the final one is conventional, and those tend to be people that like structure and organization. Oftentimes we have characteristics maybe in all 6 of those, maybe 3 or 4 of them. So our job as a career counselor is to listen to you and explain your interest, your skills, and those types of things, and help you categorize them with this theory. And then we provide you with some suggestions for occupations to do some further exploration. So, in closing, if you're interested in working with a staff person here at the college, we first recommend the career development workshop, only because we can serve more people when we do the workshop setting. If you look towards individual appointments, it actually takes much longer because of the amount of time that we devote to the one-on-one that we need to get you in for appointments. It's a total of 6 hours as a group. I do believe that in teaching the workshop, you learn stuff from the other participants. People that take the workshop will range anywhere from 16 and 17-year-olds to in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So when I combine that group, everybody begins to see how career planning is a lifelong process, and actually the participants teach each other a little bit about their own process. So there's that hidden benefit. And even when you do the group, you will be offered some one-on-one, because then we sit down and talk to you, you know, after we present the information and collect the information about yourself. We sit down and then have that conversation about your own life circumstances to help you develop that plan. So really the individual is about, you know, helping see what you need and making sure that we can direct you to the right resources to get the information that you need to make a good decision. The workshops are on our website. They're also on the green sheet on the stool. Anything, I also put up a website up here that's also accessible on our website under our career counseling page. It really is a good website to start exploring some careers. They have some assessments in there also that helps you kind of identify your interest and your skills. But keep in mind, it's not just one or the other, it's sort of a combination. It's putting a puzzle together, and that's what we hope that we can do in supporting you as a prospective student. So make sure to review and reevaluate your plan and goals along the way. We get some students that start a program, and after the first semester, they come in and go, you know what, I'm registering for next semester, but I know this probably isn't the right program for me. Can you help me navigate? You know, so the worst case scenario is you choose something and then you find out in that first semester it's maybe not what you thought it would be. Then we help you regroup and we redirect and help you get, sometimes we learn stuff from that experience that better helps you choose the next semester. But our goal always is to get you in the right program at the onset, and that's why I really do, if you're unsure, I really do encourage you to consider doing our career workshop or meet with a counselor, even if it's for 1 or 2 sessions, just to talk about why you've chosen what you've chosen or why you think you're choosing a particular program, and then help us support that in any way that we can to make sure you have all the information that you need. Just be flexible to make changes if it's needed. And like I said, that last point, just utilize us. That's what we're here for. It's a free service to you. So I think it's a good appointment to make, or it's a good workshop to attend. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And just keep in mind that the younger students are, sometimes it feels a little, they seem to feel a little more stuck because they don't have the experiences that a returning adult has. I mean, I always say that, you know, I know more about myself in my 50s than I certainly knew at 18 in regards to my interest and my skills and my values, but it still didn't mean that I couldn't start, with what I had at 18 and navigating what I did know about myself. So the best way, I use that puzzle analogy. I think sometimes when I'm working with younger people, and I guess I'm stereotyping a little bit, but more often than not, their puzzles don't have as many pieces. As we're returning adult in their 30s, 40s, they tend to have a few more pieces with that puzzle because they've had more life experiences to sort of teach them a little bit more about where they best fit in the world of work. So I feel like what I can teach at 17 and 18 hopefully is a foundation that they can use in their 20s and their 30s and use that information to go, you know what, this is fitting now, and now it was fitting, but it isn't anymore, so I need to make some changes. So yes, I think the younger the better with that, 17, 18 to do that. Anybody else? Okay, well then go on out and check out some of the program areas, but ask questions like, what makes a successful student in this program? What are the characteristics that you see in a student? And then try to mirror that and go, are they describing me? Are these some of the characteristics I see in myself? And if not, it doesn't mean that it's not a right fit, but it's certainly worth some questioning that maybe there's a program that might be a better fit. Okay? All right, thanks for coming. Thanks for your time.
Is this one also in this location? Is the tuition?
Yep, they're going to do it right now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep, right here.
So to sign up for a workshop,
Right, grab one of those green sheets, and then you can do that today. I think in E130 they're signing people up.
Okay.
So you could do that right in E130. So if you want to just grab one of those green sheets.
Okay. And then before we leave here today, what's the number one thing you should be signed up for some type of a course, or should we do the workshop first before sign up for anything? Or
Right. When you go to E130, they will, I think you have until December
13th.
13th? So you have until December 13th to get that free application fee waiver. Application fee waiver. Right.
So we're going to E130.
E130, I can point in that direction too. It's, if you walk down that hall, you have somebody right there. They actually have a table on the side of the person, so they'll get you signed up for the workshop. They have those sheets there, and then they'll tell you about, once you complete the workshop, then they'll get the fee.
Yeah, you kind of have to start with the end in mind, right? Although one of the things she said, you kind of have to actually that you change your.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I think this is supposed to start at 4:30, so we're a couple minutes late, but we'll pick up here. So today we're going to talk about paying for college. My name is Mike Gowell. I'm a financial aid facilitator here at Fox Valley Tech. So what that means is all day, every day, all I do is financial aid applications. I help students and their families fill out the application. I help you turn in any verification documents you might have been chosen for, things along those lines. So if you have financial aid questions as far as filling out that FAFSA and stuff, I'm the one you want to talk to. Down here is my contact information. You can also stop in our office and talk to anybody else in there. Everyone in there is very well versed with this particular subject. So all right, so why is everyone here today? Financial aid can be a confusing thing for some folks, as this kind of comic explains it. It's not as difficult as a lot of folks think, but for many it can look like a foreign language or advanced economics class, like the comic here says. So now that you've decided where you want to go to school, whether it be here or wherever, hopefully here, but you're going to want to figure out what the costs are to go to school. So first and foremost is going to be your tuition and fees. This is going to be the amount of money that each one of your classes cost with their materials, things like that. Your books and supplies, it's going to vary, based on how many credits and things you're in. Your room and board, this will vary based on if you're going to live on campus or off campus, or if you're going to live with your parents. All right, these are the three options that pop up on the Fasfa application as to where you're going to live. Transportation and personal expenses, they do accumulate for a little bit of money as far as that goes. Those are state mandated numbers that come from the Department of Education. What this does is this gives you what's called your cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance is the overall cost for you to attend school at that college of your choice for 1 year. So this is just a breakdown of Fox Valley Tech in 2019, 2020, your cost of attendance. This is based off of a 15 credit load. That is a little more than full-time for most. 12 credits is considered full-time for financial aid purposes. So you have, as I said, this is the only major big difference right here is going to be your room and your board. So with the parent, obviously mom and dad are paying rent, so they don't figure that they need to account for you paying rent if mom and dad already are. So that's really the only number that's going to change in your cost of attendance. Otherwise, those are going to stay the same no matter what. They'll vary a little bit based off of the school you decide you want to go to, but for the most part, those numbers are going to stay the same. So first and foremost is you want to figure out your different ways to pay for school. All right, so your first one is going to be scholarships. Has everybody here filled out at least one scholarship? Doesn't matter if you're a high school senior or returning adult, there is literally a scholarship out there for everyone. I've seen scholarships for folks that are left-handed, and I've seen scholarships for people that like to ride horses. All right, there's literally a scholarship for everyone. It's just a matter of you taking the time to fill out those applications. All right, so with the scholarships, guidance offices, your high schools are going to be great resources. They're going to know a lot of the local foundations that you can get in touch with, local organizations that are looking to give out those scholarships, things like that. Next is going to be your foundation office. Here at Fox Valley Tech, we have a scholarship that opens up, I believe it opened last week. And when you fill that out, it's one application. It takes about 15-20 minutes to fill out. And what it does is it puts you in for about 300 different scholarships that we have. So it takes you and compares you to our list of all the scholarships we offer and says, okay, well, hey, these are the best ones for you. And then they'll determine which ones you could or could not be eligible for. I've seen some students get more than one, but usually there's plenty of scholarships out there. Parental affiliations, this is going to be like if mom and dad work for a company that maybe do tuition reimbursement from work, if mom and dad are part of the Lions Club or the Elks Club, something like that. A lot of those organizations do offer scholarships or tuition reimbursement for members or workers. Veterans education benefits. Is anyone in here a veteran or mom and dad's veteran? Okay, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to stop down at our Veterans Education office. I would highly recommend it though. Veterans education benefits is something that could be available to your children based off of, I'm not an expert on it by any means, but like your disability rating, your time in service, the amount of, whether you were active duty, National Guard, things like that. So it's something that it doesn't hurt to check into. Lots of different options there, so I would definitely make sure you guys are talking to the Veterans Education Office if that is something that might pertain to you. Americorps, this is an outside organization that can help with different situations where perhaps the parents aren't in the situation, low income, things like that. Payment plans. We offer payment plans after our enrollment dates. So once you enroll in your next semester of classes, which I believe enrollment opens, I think the end of October here. So once you enroll in your classes, you'll get essentially the cost of your classes for this next semester. We open payment plans about a month, 2 months after enrollment is over, and then you can get on those payment plans. You do pay 25% down, but then the sooner you're on that payment plan, the more payments you have to pay the rest of it off. So you might have to pay 25% down, but then you have the rest of it split over the next 4 or 5 months, versus if you wait until 2 months before you're done with the semester, now you're going to make a really big payment and then 2 more big payments. So the sooner you get on those payment plans, the better it is for you. There is a small $25 origination fee with our payment plans, but it's just like borrowing money anywhere else, except for you're not borrowing the money. We're kind of holding off on charging you for it, so to speak. Savings, so your 529 plans. Does anybody here have a 529 or educational savings plan? No? If you do, you just want to make sure you're in touch with whoever it is that's handling your 529 plan, just to make sure what is and is not considered an educational expense. Some companies will consider a laptop an educational expense, while others will not. So just make sure you're in touch with them to see, what they consider those educational expenses and then how they do their billing. Do do they build a school directly, or do you have to pay up front, get reimbursed, things like that? Financial aid. So this is going to be your Fasfa application. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone and anyone should fill out the Fasfa application. The Fasfa application takes about 30 to 45 minutes to complete, and what it does is it puts you in for grants, loans, and work study. All right, so grants are free money you never have to pay back if you're eligible for them. It's essentially the government giving you a chunk of money saying, hey, we want to see you make something of yourself. Here you go. So the student loans, those are going to be two different types. We'll touch on those in a little bit, but these are going to be federal loans. So they're going to have a lot of great benefits that go along with it. Your work study opportunities. So here at Fox Valley Tech, I know we have over 100 different jobs you can do. So what work study is it's the opportunity for you to work for the college and get paid while you're attending school. You can do anything from IT, you can work in our security office, you can work on our grounds crew, you can work in our kitchen. Lots of different opportunities. Nice part about it is you get paid $10 an hour and they work around your class schedule. So if you have class in the morning and say you have a 4-hour break in between your classes, you could get paid to work for that 4 hours rather than going back to your dorm room or sitting on your butt playing Xbox, all right? With that money, it comes as a bi-weekly paycheck. What they do is they pay you every 2 weeks, and then that check is yours to use for whatever you need to help you succeed while you're in school, whether it be gas, groceries, anything along those lines. Private loans, this is going to be another option. We highly recommend that you guys check out the federal loans and the Parent Plus loans before you go to these private organizations. The reason that we say this is private loans are going to have much higher interest rates usually. They aren't going to have the same kind of repayment options, and some of them, not all of them, can be put into what's called deferment, which is like a section or a time period where you don't have to make payments because of you being in school. So with those private loans, you are the only one that knows what's best for your financial situation. So just make sure you guys are shopping around with those, looking at the different, interest rates, whether it's variable, whether it's fixed, that type of stuff. The parent loan, this is what's called a Parent Plus loan. This is an additional loan you can get on top of the Fasfa application. And what it is it's a federal loan that the parent essentially is co-signing for. All right. So you can request up to that cost of attendance. So that cost of attendance that we discussed at the beginning, you can request up to the cost of attendance for the year. It is a additional loan on top of the Fasfa application. Mom and dad are going to fill out a application online, and you do have to complete what's called a master promissory note. A master promissory note is just essentially you giving 2 references to the federal government so that if for some reason you decide not to make payments, who can they talk to try to get a hold of you and work something out. That does not go to the school, that master promissory note. That's the federal government's guidelines. So with that, apprenticeships, if you are interested in getting into the trades, so if you want to be a plumber or a welder or an electrician, anything along like that, we do have an amazing apprenticeship program, and they have lots of different options along those lines. I am not an expert on them by any means, but with those apprenticeships, sometimes you can get an employer that'll hire you up front, send you to school, and then you just work for them afterwards, and they pay for everything as long as you sign a contract to work for them for X amount of time. So we do have apprenticeships. I believe they are in the cafeteria or the commons area if you would like to go check those out after this. Also, if anyone is Native American, we do have a tribal representative. So if you are eligible to get any kind of grants from your tribe, those payments would be handled through our financial aid office. So if you have questions or concerns, you can stop down at our financial aid table, and we've been more than happy to talk to you about them. So the Fasfa application, this is what their website looks like. Has anybody in here done the Fasfa before? Okay, so if you've done a Fasfa in the past, if this doesn't look familiar to you, they did just redo their website about a year ago. So just be cognizant that when you guys go to these websites to do this stuff, it is a free application, okay? So if you ever get told you have to pay money to apply for financial aid, you don't go to that website. Go back out, try it again. This is what their website looks like, and again, it is a free website. So why should you complete the FAFSA? So by completing the FAFSA, again, you're applying for those grants, those work studies, and those loan opportunities. Plus, it does also put you in for any state and localized grants that may be available to you. All right. So FAFSA information may also be used for institutional aid, which is going to be if the institution you're deciding to go to has any additional funding, say from an alumni office or a foundation office, that they may be able to give out additional scholarships or additional grants that you could be eligible for. And again, scholarships. It's not a requirement for all scholarships, but there are some scholarships out there that will not look at your application until you complete the FAFSA, because essentially they look at it as, if you're willing to take our free money, why aren't you willing to take the government's free money? So, FAFSA application does have to be done once a year. It opens on October 1st every year. So if you are looking to attend school next fall, that application did open on the 1st of this month. The expected family contribution is the main reason why we complete the FAFSA application. What it is it's an index number that determines how much financial aid you need. So what they do is they take your EFC, which is going to come from your income, your assets, your family size, and the number of students that are in college in your household. What they do is they take that EFC and they minus it out of your cost of attendance, which is that number we talked about in the beginning. And that gives you what's called your financial need. So again, we take your cost of attendance, which is determined by your school, and then we minus out that expected family contribution, which is determined by the FAFSA application and the federal government, and that gives us your financial need. With that financial need, that's how we determine how much, say, grant money, how much loan money, how much of that institutional aid, and those additional scholarships and things that could potentially be eligible for. So financial aid is going to vary based on the school you're deciding to attend to. So as you can see, we have School A, School B, and School C. The cost of attendance is going to be drastically different for each one, but that expected family contribution is going to stay the same no matter what school you're going to. So the only thing that's going to really change is that family or that financial need. Now, your amount of money that you're going to get from the federal government is going to stay the same no matter what school you're going to. But when you get into some of these more expensive schools, the private schools, things like that, that's where we get into that institutional aid and some of those scholarships that we were talking about. They have those bigger alumni offices and they have those bigger foundations that they can give out those additional funds. So just because it seems like it costs more to go to those other schools doesn't mean it's necessarily out of reach. All right. So the federal student loans, when you fill out the FAFSA application, federal student loans are sometimes split into two different types. So there's one called a subsidized and one called an unsubsidized. The difference between the two is a subsidized loan does not accumulate any interest while you're attending school. A subsidized or unsubsidized loan does accumulate interest the day you get the money. Nice parts about these loans is you do not have to pay them back until 6 months after you graduate from college. So as long as you maintain 6 credits of learning, doesn't matter if you're in school for 2 years or 10 years, you do not have to pay them back until 6 months after you graduate. But you do have to maintain 6 credits in a financial aid eligible program. All right. Also, they're going to be lower interest rates than if you were to go to those private banks, just like I said before. So I believe the private or the federal loans are somewhere around 4.5% last year. I've seen them up to 6%. It does fluctuate with the market, but it is usually a set number each year. The credit score is not required for the FAFSA application. So for all of you that are right out of high school, it does not matter if you don't have credit history. You're going to be eligible for financial aid no matter what. We get a lot of folks that come in and say, oh, no, I'm not going to be eligible for financial aid. You know, my parents make too much money, this, that, and whatever. Everyone should get some form of financial aid. Now, you might not get the grant money, which is that free money we discussed, but everyone should get those student loans in some way, shape, or form. Just because you're offered it does not mean you have to accept it. So if you are offered student loans and you don't want them, you are by no means obligated to take them. And there is no penalty if you apply 1 year and don't use them that year. All right. Also, there is no cosigner required for the FAFSA application. Everything that comes from the FAFSA application is strictly the student's responsibility. So if the student gets any loans off of the FAFSA application, they are the student's responsibility to pay them back, not the parents. The only time that the parent would get involved is if you're going to take out a private loan through a private bank, or if you guys do decide to go along the lines of those Parent Plus loans. All right. So for a first-time dependent student, you are going to be offered roughly right around $5,500. And like I said, it is usually split into two categories. Sometimes it is not, depending on the amount of income that the family has. Sometimes you will not be eligible for that subsidized loan. Sometimes it'll only be that unsubsidized. If you are eligible for that subsidized loan, the maximum amount you would get for your first year would be $3,500 of subsidized loan. For an independent student, that number goes up to $95,000, but that subsidized loan does stay at $3,500 for an independent student. The reason that these are there is because we do have lifetime limits on the amount of money that the government will give you to attend school. That's why I said I've only ever seen about 2 people ever get denied financial aid, and that's because they were in school for 8 years and the government finally kind of said, hey guys, it's time to do something else. So with your second year, so in your second year of school, that amount of loans that they will give you does go up by another $1,000. So for dependent students, it goes to $6,500, and then for independent, it does go to $10,005. Again, it would be split if you're eligible for it. It goes up to $4,500 for the subsidized, and then the unsubsidized would take up the rest of it. Again, with the federal loans, if you are offered both of them, so say you get the $5,500 and you don't want that unsubsidized loan, you do not have to take them. You can take out just the subsidized portion. It is totally up to you. So 3 key factors you want to make sure you remember is don't underestimate your options. Never assume you're too poor or too rich to get financial aid. And then don't become overwhelmed by the price of attending college. Like we discussed before with the A, B, and C schools, it's not necessarily what it seems. It might cost more money to go to a private college, but it doesn't mean that you can't get the financial need and financial assistance that you need because they have those bigger, again, alumni offices, foundations that they can give those additional funds out. So special circumstances. So if for some reason, so with the financial aid application, the government uses what's called the prior year. So for anyone that's starting next fall, you would be using your 2018 tax returns. All right. Anybody that's starting in January, you're going to use your 2017 taxes. If you have a special circumstance where maybe there was a death in the family or mom or dad lost their job because company closed, something like that. If you have any sort of an extenuating circumstance that may merit us to look at your application again, all you need to do is come in and talk to our office. So just because you fill out the Fasfa application and it says all you're getting is the loans, it doesn't mean you can't come in and talk to us. If you come talk to us and you say, yes, my dad lost his job, so he's not making all that money that he was making before, we'll ask you to fill out a few forms, you turn in a little bit extra paperwork, and then we can reevaluate that for you and see if we can't get you some of that free money. All right, so don't be discouraged by the number that's given to you. You can always come in and talk to us if you feel you have a special circumstance. If you need help with the Fasfa application, we do offer a free Fasfa workshop every Thursday here on our Appleton campus. It's going to be in room G149. If you stop by our financial aid table just down the hall here, we do have flyers for that. You and students and parents are both welcome at this workshop. You come in, we'll walk you through the entire process from start to finish of getting that application done. And then otherwise, you can feel free to stop in our financial aid office, which is room E118, anytime during our normal business hours, Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6. And then on Fridays, we're open from 8 to 4. So does anybody have any questions pertaining to financial aid, paying for college? Anyone? No? All right, well, if you don't have any questions, y'all are free to go. Otherwise, like I said, feel free to check out our financial aid table. If you have further questions and you don't want to ask in front of a crowd, we'll be more than happy to work with you. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Yep, no, you're good.
Okay, so my daughter's and I are together.
Okay.
He is married. I am free.
Okay.
Do we go by my income and
So
his
who
income?
does who's the child with?
50-50.
So it's 50-50. Who provides the health insurance? You do?
I do.
Okay, so then I would put you. So
Well,
with,
my husband does.
well, so but
Right,
you and your current.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
my
So
husband
I would put your information and your current husband. So the way it works is you're not going to do just the biological parents. So if you are the one that the child lives with, or if you are the one that provides the health insurance. So usually it's whoever is living with more than 50%.
Right.
If it is exactly 50-50, next thing they usually look at is going to be that health insurance, who provides it, because that is like the next largest expense for students. So if it's you that provides it and your current husband, then it would be you and your current husband's information that would go on the Fasfa application. All right? Perfect. Yeah, no problem. Yes.
So, if able to get financial aid, I'm only going to be here for 8 weeks.
Which program?
I'm going to be in my Class A CDL.
So I don't know if truck driving is. I know we've been working on getting that one approved for financial aid. What I would recommend doing is stop down at our financial aid table quick. We have a bunch of our financial facilitators down there, and what they'll be able to do is tell you if that is a financial aid eligible program. Financial aid can be prorated all the way down to no credit, so you do have to be in one of those programs. I know you've been working on the truck driving financial aid eligible, but I'm not 100% sure if it is.
Where is that table?
So if you look right here, you see that first set of balloons right there? It's right next to that table. Thank you. Yep, no problem.
No, I can wait. You know what? That's fine. Yeah, I think. Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. Have a good one. Yep, bye.
I'm kidding about. My room goes in. Very good. Yeah. I'm not gonna sign up a big one. Can't do it. Because every time you shower, keeps the window shut. You have no vent. So all this team's in there, and there's like on the ceiling. Dude, you can't open it. I'm not gonna open it. I'm like, dude, that's warm. I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, dude, that's warm. I'm gonna need to show up. I didn't know what it was. We can't because it's 7. What percent of our time? Because I paid for 5 tickets. So it's 7 because it was 2 months. No, it did. It's for that month. Yeah. So then next year, we have to find for another one. That'd be 1 session. There's no room. Not this one, but that was sick. Just long. Just want to just leave and be like, thanks guys. I've been looking at the places. Go ahead.
Yep.
I know. I wish Danny would have moved up first. Yeah, no, I moved out. You know, he was still there. He was still there when I left.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, yeah, I thought I moved up first. Well, I must have signed the lease. Yeah.
I have a couple of handouts out here. Did you grab them? Okay. Okay. Hi. 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 Oh, we always have room. There's a couple chairs here and a couple chairs there. You can pull. I had some people pull some chairs out of their chi too. And then chi, there's 4 chairs around that table we could bring in too. Yeah. You okay? You good? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. My name is Kathy DeRoche, and I work as a counselor here at Fox Valley Technical College. And one of my primary responsibilities is to help prospective students and current students navigate choosing the right program in hopes of landing in the perfect career. So what I'm going to do in the next 20 minutes or so is give you sort of an outline of how we support and how we assist people, and to have you start thinking about things that might help you navigate some of the program areas tonight as you go, and maybe collect some information on some of the areas that seem to pique your interest at this point. People that we serve at the college range anywhere from juniors and seniors in high school to people in their 60s, 70s. I've done career planning with people that have retired and then decided they want to return to work and come through career planning process to try to figure out where that right fit would be. So no one is excluded of this process, and it's a free service that is available to the general public. We do some one-on-one career counseling, but we also really want to promote our career development workshops because we know we can serve more people, and there's actually a hidden benefit when you do it as a group because you actually learn from the other participants that are part of that process. So I do have some handouts over here. If you didn't get a chance to pick it up before you sat down, you can get it after I'm done. The handout with the green header is our fall semester workshops, and we do have one that's 4 to 6 for those of you that are high school students in the evenings, and we also put up a Saturday one. So hopefully we can fill those. If you find that after tonight you're still really struggling with navigating maybe what would be the right program to choose or degree to pursue. So let's get started with this slide. This is what we want to avoid, okay? And I'm sure with some of the returning adults in here, many of you have maybe had that experience at some point in your life, okay? Sometimes it can't be avoided, but when it happens, what we need to do is know how to end that scene and get to a place where we actually enjoy going to work. Believe it or not, most people are happy and satisfied in their careers. The problem is we typically hear from those people that aren't satisfied. So the noise that we typically hear are people complaining about their work. So we don't want you to be that person. We want you to be somebody that is experiencing job satisfaction. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can navigate that process in maximizing the potential for that to be the case. I have 10 myths up here, and in the last session I kind of went over them one by one, and I don't think I'm going to do that this time, but I'm just going to point out a couple of them. One of them is choosing a career is simple. That's a myth. It is one of the most important things that you're going to be choosing. It's one of the most important decisions that we make is how we spend our life's work. So it's not really that easy. So if you're feeling frustrated that everybody around you has it figured out but you, it's probably not the case. So it does take some time and some planning. So what I'm asking of you as we go through this process is to consider that you shouldn't just know. Most people don't. They've done some work to make that determination. And if they haven't done the work, they might find themselves having chosen the wrong program. It's pretty common for first-year college students to change their major numerous times, and that's partly due to the fact that they haven't done the planning up front. So it's really a little bit more complicated than I think people believe it to be. So take some pressure off yourself and forgive yourself if you don't know. And then the second one I always like to point out, because I am a career counselor with over 25 years of experience, a lot of times people come and make an appointment with me and think, well, you're the career counselor, can't you tell me what to do? I wish I had that magical power, because I always say I'd be a self-employed millionaire if I could do that. But what I can do is help empower you, because I believe all of you within you know yourself in a way that we can bring that information to the surface, and then we can apply that to the world of work to figure out where the skills and the interest and the personality traits and the values that you have, where they can best be matched in a job that will bring you that fulfillment that everybody is seeking. So I like to mention number 5, making a lot of money won't make you happy. Some people like to kind of challenge me on that one. Yeah, it's good to have money because that eliminates some of our worries, but I've worked with enough people in my career that have made a lot of money that have been really miserable on their jobs. So I think I can support that. That is definitely a myth, because if it was about money, those people wouldn't have been in my office trying to navigate how to find a different career. So it's important. I think we all work for an income, but there's other pieces to the puzzle that we have to find to create that job satisfaction. I think on this slide, the only one that I really want to point out is number 6. Once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. Career planning is actually a lifelong process, and most people navigate a number of careers throughout their work life. And that also, the feeling that if I pick something and I pick wrong, oftentimes paralyzes people in picking at all. And I think at some point, we need to take the leap of faith and go, okay, I've done my research, I've looked within myself and I've looked at my options, and this seems to be the most sensible thing and thing that matches me most at this point in time. Know that if we're living life correctly, we're going to change throughout that course of our life, and we're going to learn more about ourselves, which is another reason why we navigate the world of work and change accordingly. So what might have made me happy at 18 didn't necessarily make me happy at 28, wasn't necessarily going to make me happy at 48. So when we look at people changing jobs, many and most people do. Yep, there are some people that choose a job or a career initially and they spend their whole lifetime doing that career, but the majority of us will be navigating different careers, and usually it happens because something about us has changed, or we've acquired a new awareness about ourselves that has pointed us in a new direction. So really, when I see people for career planning, whether it be in the workshop or one-on-one, the focus is, where are you now? Okay, we talk about where have you been, because that brings us some knowledge about yourself, but where are you now and where do you think you want to go at this point? And we know that, one of the biggest questions people ask in interviews is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's sort of the same question we ask in career counseling. And before you even get started is, what do you vision your life to look like, both personally and professionally? And we try to create a picture. I'm a very visual person, so I oftentimes explain that my attempt with you is to put a puzzle together. So part of it is you providing those pieces. I kind of give you some suggestions on like what those pieces could potentially be, and then you fill in the picture. So I'm also not going to spend a whole lot of time on this outline other than to emphasize that career planning done correctly and well should be a 3-step process. How much time you spend on each of those steps will really depend on the individual. I believe that oftentimes we neglect time that's needed in step 1. We just quickly go, oh, you know, I like working with animals, so I'm going to be a vet tech, instead of really looking at the depths of what that means and what else is there about you other than that you like to work with animals. Or I really like to help people, so I think I'm going to be a nurse. Well, there's more to being a nurse than wanting to help people. So, you know, that first step really needs to be I guess, a discussion with yourself as well as with a career counselor, which is what we offer here at the college, is to really sit down and explore the range of your interests and the range of your skills and abilities, or the things that you would like to become skilled at. Because obviously one of the reasons people pursue education is so they can acquire new skills. So we don't expect you to have all the skills necessary, but we talk about what those skills are currently and how those might transfer to, you know, a program where you could build on those. For example, if you have good leadership skills, or it's naturally something that's comfortable for you, leading others and making decisions, you know, there may be a career for you in management or sales potentially. So we'll kind of look at that. So we look at what you have and maybe what you could build upon. Your personality plays a role in a lot of this. So, you know, how do you see yourself? What are those traits that others see in you? How might that connect to the world of work and a career? How might that be able to flourish and develop if you were to take those traits and place them in the world of work? Values, I think, is really important. What's important to you? Like what kind of hours do you want to work? What's the pay range? Are you looking for advancement opportunities? Are you looking to lead? Are you looking to follow? You know, some people like to follow, some people like to lead. We all can't be leaders and we all can't be followers because the world of work wouldn't function too well. So we need to kind of explore, what does that look like for you? Do you want to work around a lot of people, or do you want to work more independently and alone? So that's how we begin to start putting that puzzle together, is we start by asking those questions and having you, based on your experiences, identify like where you fit. Okay, we all bring to the table a bunch of different traits, and we need to identify what those are. And then my job and the career counselor's job is to help teach you to see how those traits fit in certain jobs and certain careers, because a person is going to be most satisfied when they're matched up with a career that fits those traits that you have in yourself. The second step of educational occupational exploration, sometimes I think people stop short in what they could all do in this step too. Maybe just reading a little blurb on a career, or talking to a neighbor or someone about the career, and then they go, yeah, that sounds like fun, I think I'm going to do that. I would encourage you to do more. We encourage our prospects to do informational interviews, go on site, go to different employers that hire the career that you're considering. We ask you to, if it's one of our programs, meet with our department staff. That's what the great opportunity of Open House provides, is you have all of our programs in one area today, and you can go out there and you can explore and ask questions. I don't know how many of you have already been in that area. You're planning to going in there after you've done this session. But I think two of the best questions to ask when you go in there and meet with the department, if there's a couple areas you're considering, is one, what makes a successful student in this program? And what you want is you want that faculty to describe to you what they see as the characteristics of those students that are most successful in that program. And then with your own self-awareness from step one, you listen to that and you go, okay, are those characteristics that I possess or characteristics that I strive to be and want to work towards? And then that's where you begin to start pairing that up. And if you see a little conflict in that, that's when you have to do, once again, some self-exploration and say, like, what does that mean? Is that a potential that maybe this isn't the best fit for me? Or is there something maybe that I need to do to determine whether or not I want to create those characteristics in myself, or is that just not me? So that's the first question. The second question would be, what are the job titles and who are the employers hiring these graduates? Because then that gives you some information about the work environment. Where, are these large employers? Are these small employers? Are most of the employers in this area? Are we seeing students relocating to different parts of the state? So that also is a helpful question, I think. And then knowing your own self-awareness, are these places that I'd like to work? And then the obvious question too is, what's the range of income that graduates are earning? Because that's usually important to everybody involved or at the table in making this decision. But I really believe one of the best questions to ask is asking the department who's teaching our students and our graduates and helping them get prepared for the workforce, is finding out what are those characteristics that make a successful student, and then doing that cross comparison and of yourself. The final thing that we help with often is that decision making and goal setting process. And one of the things I like to point out there is one size doesn't fit all. So yeah, we market our associate degrees, for example, as 2-year degrees. But not everybody, and probably many of our students, if not even the majority, don't do it the traditional full-time route. We have many, many students that go part-time because we have students that are also working. So one of the conversations that I have with you is what does your life look like now, and how do you see education playing a role in it? Some students want education to be the primary role, and they want to be a full-time student, and they want to move forward through the program as quick as possible. Where other people want to kind of test the waters and say, I haven't been in school in a while, or I'm concerned about my ability to be successful, or I have all these other things that are going on in my life. So then we work out a plan to, let's just get started on a part-time basis, or explore with a couple courses first to see if this really is the right fit, if you're really reluctant and hesitant. So that varies from program to program and from individual to individual. But really what I want to emphasize in that third step is that when you work with a career counselor, our focus is to make sure that it's the right process for you and the decisions will work for you. We also want to focus on any kind of obstacles or barriers that are might cause you to stumble up front, because we want to address those and get resources in place. If you're concerned about math, we want to make sure that you're aware of math tutoring. If you're concerned about finances, we want to make sure that you have all the resources to be able to support and answer those questions. If confidence and fear may paralyze you, then we want to make sure that you're connected to our student support services so we can address that as you move forward. One of the biggest obstacles that we see students face is their fear or inability to ask for help. And I have to tell you, if there's one tool in your toolbox you should have, it's that ability to ask for help when you need it, because there's a tremendous number of resources here at the college to help students be successful, but we can't get to you if we don't know that you have those questions or you need those resources. So that's also, the career counseling is more of a proactive approach to getting all your ducks in a row, if I can use that expression. Not only about finding something that's going to motivate you, because you'll see in step one in that personal assessment and self-awareness, motivation is part of the equation. How motivated are you to get this education now? And sometimes motivation is identified as one of the barriers that they're concerned about. So we want to address that sooner than later and talk about, like, what is it that we can do, or what is it that you can do to help, support that and increase that motivation. And usually I believe that, having a good, solid career goal helps with that motivation, because if you are excited about what it is that you're studying and you can see that end goal of that career and that job you could be doing, that helps sustain that motivation when you're maybe taking a class that's not so exciting, or you're working on that homework assignment that seems like it's never going to end. So think of our career planning process as also providing that conversation about what's going to sustain you once you get started. Okay. This is just a visual of a lot of what I've already talked about in terms of, a model of what you should be thinking. Those of you that are working in satisfying careers, how many of you in here have a job that, for the most part, you're satisfied and happy with? Okay, great. So my guess is if you looked at this model, you'd be able to find things to fill that circle, that you're doing things for the most part that are of interest to you. I mean, we want to maximize that. I mean, I oftentimes say, I love my job, but there's probably 10 to 15% of the duties that I'm asked to do that aren't so exciting for me, but because I have 85 to 90% of things that I truly enjoy, I can get through some of those things. The other part is skills. So the other part of job satisfaction is feeling like you're really good at what you do. So you feel like you're successful. Nobody wants a job where they're constantly or occasionally even struggling to whether or not they're feeling they're capable enough, or they're too challenged that it's creating unnecessary stress. And then on the other side of that, nobody wants a job that's so easy for them that they're bored and they watch the clock the entire time they're at work, so the day ends so they can go home because they're so bored. So part of it, having a satisfying job, is you kind of have that well balanced, that you're challenged to the point that you like to be challenged and you're continuing to learn, and it's not a place where it's so easy that, you feel like you are just waiting for the day to end. And then the bottom circle is values, and it's meeting, you like the hours that you work. It allows for, a good work-life balance. The pay is good, the benefits, if you like independence or you like a lot of management, whatever it is that you prefer. Some people like a lot of recognition. Some people would prefer not. Some people like to work with teams. Some people like to work alone. So we have that conversation in the early stages. What kind of environment do you think is going to be most satisfying to you? And I have no idea why that keeps blacking out. But if there's one thing that you can visualize as you're exploring careers, is think of this. Like, is this something that I would enjoy in terms of the tasks and responsibilities most of the time? Is this something that I think I could be successful at in terms of the skills? And does it meet my primary values in terms of a work schedule and pay and fulfillment and whatever else that would look like? And then the circle around it is life circumstances, and that's a conversation that we also have as a career counselor. When making your decision, we consider your life circumstances, and that's about more towards the decision-making process. If you're somebody that has, I'm trying to think of an example. Sometimes it can be disability related. If you're somebody that enjoys a lot of physical labor, that's been kind of your life's work and drive, is that you do things that are physically performing, and your skills are that of such that you're really mechanical and hands-on. Your values are you like to work outdoors, and you like, being tired at the end of the day physically. But the reality of your life circumstances may be you have a back injury that prevents you from doing a lot of that type of work. So we have to then work with that life circumstance based on your interest, skills, and values, to make sure that if one of your values is to preserve your physical health, that we don't get you down a road where you're doing a job that's going to cause problems because of for example, a back injury. So those types of things can fall into life circumstances. Okay, so if you're unsure of your career path and you would like to sit down with somebody and just help talk through, your goals, your interests, your skills, and help us navigate that with you, we first recommend our career development workshop, and it's a 6-hour workshop, and we have flyers over here. It's with the green heading on top. Those are our fall semester workshops. If for some reason, based on your schedule, none of those work for you, we then would allow you to schedule an appointment one-on-one with a career counselor. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, and so there's even an individual appointment that's attached to the group workshop, because we really want to sit down with you and we want to hear your story based on where you're at and where you'd like to go, and then our job is to try to help you the best that we can navigate that. And many of the people that we see end up navigating it through some education and training here at the college. So I welcome you to take into consideration that opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'm open to answering them right now. So does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
When you go through the career workshops and the career counseling, do you look at other types of programs or just tech programs?
Well, good answer, or good question, and I do have a good answer for that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because for example, if we go through this process and you find out that really where your interests and skills and values are going to best be met is maybe in an area in which we don't offer that training or degree, there are some careers that require, for example, a bachelor's or a master's degree in order to meet the qualifications to do that. So most definitely, we will help you navigate that. We will encourage you, as I did 2 of the 3 of my own children, to start here and do some of their general education, because it definitely was more cost effective. My youngest of my 3 children listened to me the best on that, and she's the one that most likely will get through college without student loans because of it. So I will help you navigate that plan if that works for you. But her goal was social work and music, and she needed a bachelor's degree in both of those, and we don't have any music classes here, so that wasn't going to work. But she did spend a year getting and transferred in as a sophomore at a 4-year college. And like I said, there was a hidden benefit to that. So absolutely. Any other questions? Yep. Yeah, typically we try to run about 3 starting a month, 2 to 3 starting a month. I don't know if there's any starting in December. Usually that month is a short month and we're getting ready to start. And then in January, sometimes we'll offer one right away that first couple weeks of January. Otherwise, we won't start offering them until our semester gets kicked off, because the career counselors also have like a dual role where they do some advising and support of current students. So usually a start of a semester is a place where we're spending a lot of our time and effort in that. So for sure, February, March, April, May, and we typically try to run 2 or 3 during the summer. Yep. And keep in mind, if the schedules don't work and you want to get in to see someone, you can always call our counseling and advising office and they'll work at getting you in for an appointment. That typically takes a little bit longer, just based on the fact that we have to meet with you one-on-one over the course, sometimes over a few months, depending on our schedules. Some people really only need like 1 appointment. Let's say you have something in mind, but you just really want to talk it through with somebody non-judgmental that will listen and maybe do some challenging to help you validate it. That might be all you need. So even the one-on-one doesn't necessarily require the whole process, or it may be I'm trying to decide between these 2, and a career counselor can maybe just help you navigate that and give you some resources and information to help you do a little bit more exploring to make that final decision. So once again, one size doesn't fit all. But if you're really sitting in a place where you're really not sure, or you have all kinds of ideas, then I would say the career development workshop is the best to choose. Okay? All right, I'm out of time, but I'll be over here if other people have some questions. You can ask me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
6 hours, because I noticed some of them aren't, so.
Yeah.
So like,
Sure they are.
it's like if he came,
So-
this one's like 4 hours.
Oh, the Watoma one is
This one on Thursday from.
it's
the
24th and
Oh, so you
31st
go
of
there 3 times,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
so they're all 6 hours, but then you have to go to multiple sessions
Yeah,
at that
this
time.
is the
Okay.
only one, the Watoma
Hey,
one.
I didn't see that, I didn't see you had to go 3 different
No,
times.
but you're right here. This Watoma one is only 4 hours. It's just 2 sessions. But someone from Workforce Development Center actually does
Got
the
it.
one in Watoma. And I think also in Watoma, I think the reason he probably sets it up that way is we typically have real low numbers,
Got
like
it.
maybe 4 or 5.
So it's
versus
less
in-
people asking
In
questions.
Appleton, we usually have like 14 to 16. So that's probably why.
Makes
he's-
perfect sense.
Okay.
It was a great, you did a
Sure.
great job.
Thank you.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So we're here to talk about paying for college. My name is Mike Gowell. I'm a financial aid facilitator here at Fox Valley Tech. What that means is all day, every day, all I do is financial aid applications. I help students and their families get the application done. I help you go through the verification process if you're chosen for it. Any questions, concerns you have about financial aid, getting loans, additional funding, things like that, that's what I'm here for. If you need to contact me, my contact information is down here on the bottom. Otherwise, if you stop at our financial aid table, they do have some business cards and some other information that has all this on there. So why are we here today? Again, we're talking about paying for college. So this next screen here, it kind of explains that a lot of folks, they think financial aid is a lot harder than it actually is. All right. The comic here just kind of depicts a couple of folks in a financial aid presentation and people walking by thinking it's something terribly difficult or, hard to understand. Has anybody in here done financial aid before? For yourself or another child, perhaps? Okay, so if you've ever done financial aid before, it's gotten a lot easier over the years. It used to be, the pen and paper version, and then they progressed to the PIN. Now it's actually, you're going to create what's called an FSA ID online, and that's how you're going to sign your application digitally. It's how you're going to fill it out in the first place, and then you're going to be able to use what's called an IRS data retrieval tool. So what that is it's a link that the IRS now has with the Department of Education, where you can automatically pull that information directly from the IRS, so you're not fumbling through 20 different pages of tax information to figure out what you got to enter. It pulls in about 95% of your tax information that's needed. There are still a few questions that you do have to answer, but for the most part, most of that stuff gets pulled in directly. So once you've decided where you're going to school, first and foremost is you got to figure out what the costs are to attend school. All right. So in your costs, you got your tuition and your fees, your books and supplies, your room and your board, your transportation, and some personal expenses. All of these together equal what's called the cost of attendance. So every school's cost of attendance is going to vary a little bit based off of your tuition, your fees, and the books that you're in, your credit load, stuff like that. Your transportation and your personal expenses, those are state mandated numbers from the Department of Education. So those numbers are going to stay the same pretty much no matter what school you're going to if it's in that specific state. Now, if you go to Texas versus Wisconsin, it might be a little different. All right. So just an example of the FVTC 2019-2020 cost of attendance is up here. As you can see, there's two different categories. One says with parent, and then one says on and off campus. So on and off campus means you're either going to live in the dorms or you're going to live in your own apartment. With parent means mom and dad are paying the rent. All right. Why this is important? So if you look here at the paper, or at the screen, the only one that changes up there is the room and board. All right. So as you can see with the room and board, the number allocated for your with parents is a lot less because while mom and dad are paying the rent, they don't need to allocate that much extra money for you if you're not paying for room and board. Otherwise, all those numbers are going to stay pretty much the same. Again, they'll vary based on the school you're attending, but for the most part, all those numbers are going to stay the same except for those two categories. So when you're paying for school, there's lots of different ways to pay for school. First and foremost is going to be your scholarships. Who here has filled out a scholarship before? Anybody? Okay, so a few people. So scholarships is a huge thing, especially if you're a senior that's looking to come into college next year. If you're a returning adult, it doesn't matter who you are. There are scholarships out there for everyone. I've seen scholarships for people that are left-handed, and I've seen scholarships for people that like to ride horses, all right? One of the stories I tell when I go out and I do my financial aid presentations to schools and community centers, there was a girl 2.5 years ago from Ohio. She had applied to 1,500 different scholarship applications. She was awarded $1.6 million of free money to go to school. She got it because she put in the time and the effort to fill out all those applications. There are thousands upon thousands of scholarships out there that go unclaimed every year because nobody puts in the time or effort. Just a couple of examples for some of the ones. When I was in school, there used to be one. If you filled out a quick form that said who you were, your address, things like that, and you sent in 50 proofs of purchases for Snicker, you got put in for a $1,000 scholarship from Snicker. It's really not that difficult. Home Depot used to have one. If you videotaped yourself planting a tree, you got put in for a $1,000 scholarship. So there's lots of them out there. One of the key things with scholarships, if you're writing an essay for any of them, I would highly recommend you save that essay. There's going to be 30 other applications that need an essay that's very similar. You go in, change a couple of words, bam, you just applied for another scholarship and it only took you a quarter of the time. So parental affiliations, this is going to be if, say, mom and dad work for a company that does tuition reimbursement for employees or their families. If mom and dad are part of the Elks Club, Lions, any of the other clubs I may have missed, that type of thing. Veterans education benefits. Is anybody in here a child of a veteran or a veteran themselves? Okay, so if you haven't had a chance yet, I would highly recommend you guys stop down at our Veterans Education office. There are tons of veterans education benefits out there. You could be eligible for some of them based off of your parents' service, or if you yourself served, there could be benefits that are available to you. Again, they are going to be the experts in that area, so I would recommend stopping down and talking to them. The worst you're going to do is you're going to spend 5 minutes talking to them, and you might not get anything out of it, but you could also find out that you could get 128 semester hours of school for free. So, recommend talking to the veterans office if that is all something that might pertain to you. Places like Americorps, WDVA, organizations like this are out in the community to help folks cut back to school, to get that training to come back to school, especially if, say, for younger folks, if mom and dad aren't in the picture, or if, lower income families, things like that. These other organizations are out there to help you come back to school to be able to make your dreams come true with getting that education you've been wanting. Payment plans. Every school is going to offer a payment plan. Here at Fox Valley Tech, our payment plans usually open about a month after your after enrollment time opens. So I think enrollment for this next semester is going to be towards the end of October here. So that means usually by the end of November, we should start. End of November, December-ish is when we start opening up those payment plans. They do vary a little bit. It depends on how busy we are for the semester, but we try to get those out as soon as we can. The sooner you get on a payment plan, the better it is for you. Usually you'll have to make a down payment, which is going to be a portion of your amount that you owe, which usually somewhere around 25-30%. And then what they do is they take the rest of what you owe for that semester and spread it over the rest of that semester. So the sooner you get on it, the smaller those payments are, because there's more months to pay it over, versus if you wait until the last month or 2 months before you are supposed to be done for the semester, now you got 2 really big payments. So sooner you get on the payment plan, the better it is for you. Savings plans, 529s, EdVest accounts, things like that. Does anybody in here have an EdVest account or an educational savings plan? So if you do, I would highly recommend that you be in touch with whoever your provider is for that account. Some of these accounts, they do consider, say, a laptop an educational expense. Some of them do not consider a laptop an educational expense. So just make sure you guys are talking to them, see what they do and do not consider for those educational expenses, and then how they do their payments. Do they pay the college directly? Do you have to get a bill and send it to them for reimbursement? Just make sure you're in touch with them to figure out how they do that stuff. Financial aid, this is the big one for us. So financial aid, especially for me, I recommend anybody and everyone should fill out the financial aid application. It doesn't matter what kind of background you come from. Doesn't matter how much money your parents make, how much you owe, doesn't matter. Financial aid, everybody and anybody will more than likely be eligible for some form of financial aid. With the Fasfa application, it puts you in for grants, loans, and work study. We're going to touch on those in just a minute as to what all those are. But I highly recommend everyone fills it out. In the time that I've been here, I've only ever seen 2 people get denied financial aid, and that's because they had been in school for like 8 years, and the government finally said, hey, it's time to move on with life. But everyone's going to be eligible for some form of financial aid. Granted, it might not be the type you want, but everyone will be eligible for some form of financial aid. When you do receive your financial aid, just because you are awarded loans doesn't mean you have to take them either. So just because the government says, hey, all we're going to do is give you loans, it does not mean you have to take those loans. All right. Anything that's offered to you for financial aid purposes, you can deny, you can accept, and you can actually reduce the amount. So say you get you get a loan on your Fasfa application for $10,000, but you only want to borrow $5,000. You can only borrow $5,000. It's up to you as to how much you want. All right. Private loans. These are going to be something that you're going to take on top of the Fasfa application. You're going to go out into the community. If you work with a bank, if you've been a member of a credit union, something like that, they may have a great opportunity where you can get a lower interest rate. But we highly recommend you look at the Fasfa application first, just because these loans from the federal government are going to be lower interest rate, and they are going to have much better repayment options than if you go to a private organization. Parent loans. A parent loan is a parent plus loan. So what that is it's an additional loan that the parent is going to co-sign for from the federal government. You can request up to the cost of attendance. So that number we talked about in the beginning, you can request up to that cost of attendance for the full year. The parent will fill out an application online, and then you do have to complete what's called a master promissory note. What that is you're essentially giving a couple of references to the government, just like any other loan. If you don't pay it, who can they contact to get a hold of you, kind of thing. That does not go to the school. It is a federal guideline, so that all goes to the feds. Apprenticeships. If anybody is interested in getting into being a plumber, an electrician, a welder, things like that, I would highly recommend you stop by our apprenticeship table. We have lots of apprenticeships through Fox Valley Tech, and some of them, I don't know the full details on them, but I do know with some of the apprenticeships, you could actually get hired on by an employer. They will send you to school, and then you just sign a contract to work for them for a couple of years after you graduate. So it's a very lucrative opportunity, and I would highly recommend anybody that's interested in getting into one of those trades fields going down and talking to our apprenticeships folk. If anyone in here is Native American, we do have a tribal representative, so there could be potential tribal grants that you could be eligible for. So you would want to, again, contact your tribe and then also our office to see what you could potentially get from that. So the Fasfa application is the free application for federal student aid. It is one application that puts you in for grants, loans, and work study. So grants are free money that you never have to pay back. If you're eligible for them, the government essentially says, hey, here's some money, go make something of yourself. All right. Work study is the opportunity to be employed by the college you're attending and then make some money while you're here. So the federal government pays you $10 an hour. Nice part about it is they work around your class schedule. So if you have class in the morning and say you have a 4-hour break, rather than sitting around or going back to your room playing Xbox for a few hours, you could get paid to make some money for gas, groceries, whatever it is you need to help you succeed while you're here in school. All right. There's lots of different jobs that you can apply for. I know at Fox Valley Tech, we have well over 100. You can do anything from IT. You can work in our security department. You can work on our grounds crew. You can even work in our kitchen. Lots of different opportunities out there, but it's on you to apply for those. Lastly is going to be those federal loans. They're going to be split into two different types, which we'll discuss in just a few minutes here. So has anybody in here done the FAFSA application before? Okay, so a few of you had. If anybody's done it before and this doesn't look familiar to you, this is what their new site looks like. The FAFSA website was redone about a year ago. They tried to make it a little more friendly, so it is actually mobile friendly now. You can do it on your phone or your tablet rather than having to do it on a desktop computer. With the financial aid application, you do have to create what's called an FSA ID. Every student has to have an FSA ID. If you stop at our financial aid table, we do have some directions on how to do that, but what that allows you to do is it allows you to fill out your application online. It allows you to sign your application digitally, and it allows you to use what's called the IRS data retrieval tool. This is a big thing for a lot of folks because it's one of the most confusing parts of financial aid. With this FAFSA ID, what you can do is you can pull in all your tax information directly from the IRS. They have a link between the IRS and the Department of Education now, so it makes the process a whole lot easier. It pulls in about 95% of all the information that we need, and then there will still be a few questions that you're going to need to answer, but for the most part, it expedites the process greatly. Every student has to have one of these, and if you are considered a dependent student, so if you are under the age of 24, you're not married, you don't have kids of your own, or you haven't ever served on active duty in the military, there's a good chance you're going to be a dependent student. For those dependent students, a parent also has to create an FSA ID. Only one parent has to create it. So if it is a two-parent home, only one parent has to create it. If you come from a household with only one parent, whichever parent provides more than 50% of the support would be the parent that would create the FSA ID to sign the application. All right, if it comes down really quick, this is just one of the main things that we get a lot of times. If it is a 50-50 split with custody, next thing we're going to kind of look at is health insurance. Who provides the health insurance for the child? Because that's going to be the next largest expense. All right. So why should you complete the FAFSA application? Again, by filling out the FAFSA, you're getting put in for all three of those items, the grants, the loans, the work study, and it does also put you in for any state localized grants or any financial institutional financial aid that may be eligible or you may be eligible for based on the school you're attending. So the financial aid application has to be completed every year. It does open on October 1st, and it uses what's called the prior year for your tax return. So for anybody that's starting in the fall of 2020, you would use your 2018 tax returns. That application actually opened on the 1st of this month and is open now. So any of you that haven't done it yet, we do offer workshops and help sessions where we will help you go through the process, you and your parent both. So the reason you fill out the Fasfa application is it gives you what's called your expected family contribution. So the expected family contribution is an index number that the government uses to kind of establish where you are amongst everyone else in the country to determine your financial need. The main contribution or contributing factors to your EFC is going to be the income of both the student and the parent, the assets of the student and the parent, the amount of members in the household, and then how many are going to be in college that year. So how is financial aid determined? What we do is we take that cost of attendance that we discussed at the beginning, we're going to minus out your expected family contribution, and that's what gives us your financial need. So financial need is going to vary based on any school that you go to. So if you look, we have school A, school B, and school C. Every school's got a different price for the cost of attendance, and then your EFC stays the same no matter what school you go to, all right? So the only thing that's going to change is down on the bottom of your financial need. This is the amount of need-based aid that you could potentially be eligible for. So just because the school costs a little more doesn't mean it's unachievable for you. You just want to make sure you apply and talk to those financial aid offices at whatever schools you're going to. So with those federal student loans, the Fasfa application, normally your federal loans are going to be split into two different categories. You could get some of both. You might only get some of, or you might only get one. But what they're doing is they're split into two different types called a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan. A subsidized loan is a loan that does not accumulate interest while you are in college. All right. So that means if you borrow $4,000, when you start paying it back, it's still $4,000. An unsubsidized loan starts accumulating interest the day you get the money. With both of these loans, there is no credit history check. So for those of you that are right out of high school, doesn't matter if you don't have credit, you're going to be eligible for these loans. All right. Both these types of loans do not have to be paid back until 6 months after you graduate from college. So as long as you maintain 6 credits of learning in a financial aid eligible program, you have 6 months after you graduate, whether it's 2 years or 10 years, to start paying these loans back. There's no penalty to make early payments. In fact, I think most banks and places would actually, be more than happy to take your money early. They are going to be lower interest rates. I believe last year they came in somewhere around 4.5%. They do fluctuate a little bit with the market, but for the most part, they're somewhere in between 4.5% and 6% usually. With the federal loans, they are also a fixed rate, so it does not go up. It does not hike after 2 years. It's going to stay whatever that percentage rate is that you were locked in at. And then there's also no cosigner. So everything that is offered on the Fasfa application is strictly the student's responsibility. Mom and dad are not on the hook at all for it. So if the student takes out $10,000 of loans from their Fasfa application, that is on the student to pay that back, not mom and dad. The only time mom and dad would be on the hook is if you do take out one of those Parent Plus loans that we discussed, where the parent would be the cosigner, or if you were to go to a private bank, because that's when you get into those unsecured loans that you're taking out, where it's going to be very, very heavily rated on your credit score. So for a first-year dependent student, you would be offered roughly $5,500. Again, like I said, it can be split into two different types, that subsidized and that unsubsidized. If it is split, no more than $3,500 will go to subsidized, and the rest would be covered by unsubsidized. For independent students, it's going to go up to $9,500 could be available to you, but only $35,000 of it is still going to be that subsidized, and the rest would be unsubsidized. After you've been in school for a year, they do bump up the amount that you can get up by $1,000. So for a dependent student, it goes to $6,500, and then that subsidized goes up to $4,500. And then for an independent student, it does go to $10,500, and then still that $4,500. The reason that that number for the subsidized loan does not change is we do have a maximum amount for your lifetime learning limits that you have. So that's what they keep it at, to try to make sure that you can have some portion of that funding for the full time of your education. So 3 key factors you want to make sure you remember is never underestimate your options. You never want to assume you're too poor to go to college, and you never want to assume you're too rich to get financial aid. Like I said, almost everybody is eligible for some form of financial aid. Worst thing you're going to do is you waste 30 minutes of your time and they only tell you that you're eligible for loans. But at the same time, if you fill it out, you could potentially get one of those loans that doesn't accumulate interest while you're in school, which could greatly help with paying for it, rather than, taking money out of a retirement plan or a savings account, things like that. Also, don't become overwhelmed by the price of attending college. It's not necessarily what it seems. Like I said, with some of those more expensive colleges, once you get into those, they have what's called institutional aid. So they have larger foundation offices and larger alumni offices that they can offer those additional grants and those additional scholarships to students that may want to attend there. So just because the school costs more doesn't mean it's unachievable. Just talk to the financial aid office at that school, all right? Oh, I must have hit backward. Special circumstances. So a special circumstance, or we call them extenuating circumstances here. If for some reason, like I said, they use the prior year for taxes. If in 2018 you were making far more money than you are now, say there was a death of a parent, loss of a job due to a layoff, something like that, any other unforeseen circumstance that you had no control on, you got sick and were in the hospital for 6 months, so you didn't have income, things like that. We have a form called an extenuating circumstance form. What you would do is you'd come in, you fill out that form, and then you turn in a little bit of additional documentation, kind of going with your story as to why you want us to reevaluate it. And then what we'll do is we'll reevaluate your financial situation based off of your current income. So also, just because you fill out the financial aid application and it says, hey, you're only eligible for loans, well, if you had one of these circumstances where you're making less money than in 2018, I would highly recommend talking to the financial aid office and see if there isn't anything we could do for you. Lastly, if you need financial aid help, we do offer a financial aid workshop every Thursday on our Appleton campus from between 9:30 in the morning and 6 p.m. Students and parents are more than welcome to stop in, and we are more than happy to walk you through the entire process from creating that FSA ID all the way to submitting and signing your application. We just ask that you do bring a few tidbits of information with you. If you stop at our financial aid table, we do have flyers there, and on the back of that flyer, it does tell you exactly what to bring. The more of it you have, the better. Some people can get away with not having everything just because we have that IRS data retrieval tool, things like that. Also, you can stop in our financial aid office anytime during our normal business hours from 8 to 6 on Monday through Thursday, and then 8 to 4 on Fridays. If you don't live directly here in the Appleton area, maybe you came from Opaco, Watoma, something like that, we do also do financial outreach at all of our regional centers once a month on Mondays usually. So you would want to contact that regional center closest to your home to find out when we'll be out there again. And then again, students and parents are more than welcome to come in, and we will help them with any of their financial needs questions. So does anybody have any questions here? If nobody has any questions they want to ask in front of the group, I am going to be around the area. Feel free to stop and ask. Otherwise, if you stop in our financial aid office or at our table, we all have representatives that are there that can answer any kind of question you have. All right. You guys have a great night. Thanks for coming to Fox Valley Tech. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned Americorps and something else. But I didn't
Like so WIOA, WDVA.
I haven't heard of any of those.
There's a bunch of them out there. A lot of them are going to be like workforce development. A lot of them won't pertain to younger students. Sometimes they do, but usually that's when you get into those situations where like a parent isn't involved or you had a deceased parent, things like that. But it doesn't hurt to check with them to see what kind of stuff that might be available to you.
We have a nephew who's like 22.
Okay.
Never did any school past high school.
Yep.
Dad's alcoholic. I know the picture.
Okay. Yeah, so these would be great people to contact for that.
So what was
So I would so the Department of Workforce Development. The Department of Workforce Development would be a great place to start. They're going to be able to get you kind of on the right path as to where you want to go. Otherwise, if a first step too would be him coming in, talking to the schools to see what kind of program he wants to get into, and then see what we can't do with financial aid. We could try to fill it out, and if for some reason he has one of those special circumstances like we were talking about, all he's got to do is come in and talk to us, and we can see what we can either help him with to get the information from the parents, or if they're absolutely not in the picture, we can see what other options there are that we can help him with. Okay.
So you can apply for financial aid before you actually apply for
Yep.
enrollment.
Yep. So on the financial aid application, you can apply. You can put it 10 different colleges on there. So even if you're not attending all 10 of them, it doesn't hurt to send them to other schools. Most schools won't do anything with your application until you actually apply to that school, just because it does take work for them to do all the stuff. But if you want, you can send it to as many schools as you want. There's no penalty. You don't have to have applied yet. When you do apply, what they'll do is they'll get an alert, and then they'll be able to pull that application in.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it.
Yeah, so, okay. Yep.
So I didn't.
Did he pass away from a combat? No? Okay. So, and if not, it's not a big deal. Did he have any disability ratings or anything like that? Okay, so you would definitely want to stop at our veterans office. If you go down this hall, it's going to be down the hall where counseling and advising is. It's the next door down. Yep, just go straight down this hall here, and it's going to be on the right-hand side, right after counseling. Yep, it says Veterans Education Benefits right above the door. If you stop in there, they'll be able to give you an idea as to what you could potentially be eligible for. You may have to give some information to try to get a copy of this DD 214, because that's usually what they kind of go off to determine what could be. If you don't know how to get one, they can help you get in touch with the county service officer that can help you get all that stuff.
I think I will.
And you very well might. So.
Yeah, but
if
he's
you
right
don't-
here.
or
If
you
somebody
don't know
wants,
how to
they
get
can
a
just
hold of
talk to
them,
him.
you
If
can
somebody's
contact
here.
them, they'll be able to help you get all that stuff. So, but it doesn't hurt to check because, like I said, there could potentially be stuff that you could be eligible for, like even free school. So it's definitely worth the talk. So, right? Yeah. Can you do me a favor?
What?
And just make sure you're logging off when you're done, just because I'm logged in as me, not
Yeah,
student,
but
because I
did
needed to get on the old drive.
Oh, did something happen to my PowerPoint? Because I was just gonna log
Yeah,
back
because
on.
I logged in as me. So
Okay.
if you log out and then go back in as student.
Oh, okay. So just do that. You do that. Just do that.
Sorry.
Because that mouse is obnoxious.
It is.
I'm not having fun with it at all. This is stupid.
Yeah. Yep. Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I had to get on the O drive, so and on student, you can't access the O drive. I'm coming. Hang on. I think that's how you were logged in. And then it should be on the bottom there.
She'll still be there under that.
Yep, there it is.
Thank you, Mike.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All right.
I have some handouts over here. Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. My name is Kathy DeRoche, and I work as a counselor here at the college, and my primary role is to support prospective students as well as current students with career decision making. So what I'm going to do over the next 20 minutes is give you sort of an overview of the things that we consider and what we think you should consider in choosing a program and navigating your career choice. Bear with me, this is the third time I've been doing this tonight. The first time I stayed on script and I thought it seemed a little bit dry. So second time I did it, I kind of went off script, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen this round. Well, and you want to know, I'm one of those presenters that likes to walk around and use my hands a lot, and they told me I have to stay behind the mic because this is being broadcast to the regional center. So that's kind of been a challenge for me, just to kind of stay behind here. So just to get started, I'm going to start with this picture to let you know what we want to prevent from happening. And some of you in the room who has probably much more work experience than others have maybe had this feeling, or maybe some of you that it's your first job you had this feeling, but this is what we're trying to prevent, okay? When you show up to work and you're trying to decide if you really want to go in. The goal here is career satisfaction, and when I work with students for career planning, I already know that that's the goal. We spend a lot of our life working, so who doesn't want to be enjoying that and experience job satisfaction? The thing is that most people actually do enjoy their life's work. It's just that the people that don't are the ones that speak the loudest, so we get the sense that work is something bad and miserable and you're never going to enjoy it. So that's a myth, and we're going to talk about a few of those myths. There's 10 of them here, and I'm just going to grab onto a couple just to talk about in this presentation. The first one is myth being choosing a career is simple. I say if it was that simple, you wouldn't all be here because you'd all have it figured out. It's hard because there's a lot of things that you need to consider, and it is how you're going to spend your life's work and a majority of your life doing it. So you want to make sure that you make the right decision. But if you do the right steps and you do the right research and you look within yourself, you're going to maximize the probability that you're going to find the right fit. The other thing that's not up here as a myth is I think some people believe that there's one perfect job that everybody needs to be looking for, and that kind of paralyzes them in making the career decision because they're like, okay, what if this isn't the right one? There could be multiple right ones. So our job as career counselors is to more or less facilitate like a cluster of jobs that probably are going to be most suited to your personality and interests and skills and needs and values. And also know that career planning is actually a lifelong process. There are certain careers that people start planning for right out of high school, and they will spend their life's work doing that. But many people navigate the world of work and end up in different careers, for certainly different jobs throughout their journey as working professionals. So once again, taking maybe some of that pressure off that, well, like, what if I don't pick the right one? Because our job is to kind of help you get navigated in the right cluster. And then as you get new information about yourself, as you work in the world of work, you will then begin to find and navigate maybe as you change and as you learn more about yourself where you might want to move or navigate towards. The other one that I want to point out on this slide is that second one that says a career counselor or career test can tell me what to pick. Once again, I joke and say if I could be that person, I probably would be self-employed millionaire, because wouldn't that be great if people could just come to me and I'd go, this is what you should do. As our career counselors won't be telling you what to do, our career counselors will be empowering you to make that decision yourself by questioning and exploring with you those things that are unique about yourself, and then helping you see how those characteristics can fit in employment situations, in careers and jobs. I like to pull out that last one too. Making a lot of money will make me happy. A lot of times the first question as we begin exploring careers is how much do they pay? I recognize that everybody is working because they want to have an income to support themselves. But I also recognize that money isn't the only thing that we can consider and that needs to be considered, but at the front and foremost, we need to consider who you are and where you're going to match to create that enjoyment and happiness. And then we always explore what is the kind of lifestyle that you want, and that really dictates how much money is enough. So we have that conversation, but it's not the end all. Looking at the top 10 highest paid occupations and picking one of those 10s is not the route we're going to take, okay? But those lists are out there and they're great, but that's not the path that we're going to take to help you navigate what's going to be best for you. Let's see, maybe just that number 6. Once I choose a career, I'll be stuck in it forever. I think I've sort of discussed this already. Career planning is a lifelong process. Really what we're trying to do as you come either to one of our workshops or meet with us individually is to look at where you are now, what your past experience has brought you, and then futuristically, what are you hoping for? And once again, we work with 17, 18-year-olds, and we work with people. I mentioned in my last session, I've actually worked with people that have retired and come to the career development workshop because they decided, you know what, retirement wasn't for them. So they're just looking for something for maybe a 5-year stint and looking at their skills and interests and values at that point in their life to figure out where they're going to fit. So we welcome all, regardless of where you're at in your career life process, to help you navigate what next. And I think number 6 also takes a little bit pressure off the younger people. I tend to hear a lot the fear of making a decision because I fear I'm going to make the wrong decision. Know that I believe with our career development process, we're going to help you at least land in the right general area or the right cluster, and then you'll be able to navigate what the exact right job is as you begin your experience in working. We learn a lot about ourselves in doing jobs, what we like, what we don't like, what's important to us, and what's not important to us. So that's all part of the process and the journey. So this is, I'm not going to go over every bullet item on here, but this is the career development outline that we use, and it's not unique to Fox Valley Technical College. If you were to Google career development process, my guess is you would see these 3 steps or something similar to these 3 steps. Steps are assessment, and I like to reference it as self-awareness, because as soon as we say assessment, we grab onto that myth that there's a test that will tell me what to do. My guess is many of you listening to me right now have probably taken either an interest inventory or some type of career test either at school or online, and you're still here because you found that it maybe was somewhat helpful, but it didn't give you the answers that you were looking for. So the self-awareness is more of empowering you to look inside yourself to figure out what experiences you've had in life that have drawn you towards knowing the things that you enjoy doing, knowing the things that you gravitate towards in terms of doing well or that you want to learn how to do, and then also the things that are most important to you and how you can find an occupation that will support those values. And we also talk about our personality traits and the type of work environment we seem that maybe we would fit best. You know, do you see yourself working for a large corporation, a small employer? Do you see yourself sitting at a desk? Do you see yourself as being someone that needs to be more mobile and moving around? So I often use the analogy of it's like putting a puzzle together, and I sort of help you create the edges and then you help fill in the pieces. And some of the pieces don't all fall into place right away. Over your course of your lifetime, you'll begin to fill in more of those pieces as you get experiences with different jobs and careers. So that's the first step, and I think if there's any step that gets missed or enough time isn't spent on, it's probably that first step. A lot of times people just want to jump to, okay, this is what I like to do, I think I'm good at this, and now I'm going to look at careers. In the career planning process, we really spend the bulk of our time either in our office or in the workshop really talking about that self-awareness. How do you find out about where you fit best? And then when we get those characteristics, then we begin to talk about, okay, now how can you identify occupations that match that will be most fulfilling to you? And then how do you research those? How do you learn about those? I'm sure many of you have already probably been in the Commons talking to some of the department areas, maybe not. Maybe some of you will be visiting there after this session. But I say the 2 most important questions I think you can ask department people that are overseeing the training in these programs. One being the most important is asking them, what characteristics makes a successful student in this program, pursuing this degree, pursuing this career? And the reason I ask you to ask that is because I want that faculty person to tell you a lot of those things in terms of personality, the skills that one uses, the interests that they have, and then I want you to kind of mirror that back and go, is that individual describing many of my traits? Because that is one test of, you know, might I fit in this occupation? And the faculty that have been teaching in these programs know the students that are successful and rise to the top. And my guess is any program that you might choose, you want to do well and you want to be that successful student. So hearing from the department, and those characteristics there could be a wide range of what those characteristics are. It might not be, an exact thumbprint, but just kind of listening to that and seeing, are these things that are similar to me, or even more importantly, might I be hearing some characteristics that really aren't me, because that can maybe send a message that maybe this isn't a good fit. And then the other question I think is important to ask when you're meeting with the faculty or talking to people in these programs is, who are the employers hiring the graduates? Where are they working? And getting a sense of then doing some research about those employers, finding out about the work environment, finding out about what that might look like, their pay, their benefits, those types of things. That information itself can begin to help you formulate, is this suited for me? Is this potentially a good fit? So we give you a lot of other ideas in terms of how you can research and get as much information as possible about careers. Because I think one of the other myths I didn't touch up on was, I can't really learn much about a career unless I do it. And we believe that there's a lot of ways that you can do in terms of your research to get more insight on what that career is going to look like and how that matches maybe your work style, your personality, your skills and interests. And then the third step in the career planning process is obviously the decision-making or goal setting. We want to look at each person's individual life circumstances to determine how that goal setting is going to take place. We have some people that, education is going to be their primary responsibility and they want to go full speed ahead. This is what I'm going to focus on, get the skills before I work. We have other students that come to us, we're working right now in sustainable employment to either support families or their expenses is their primary responsibility, and school is sort of a secondary. So that looks a little different in the planning in terms of how they're going to proceed and set that plan up moving forward. It's always good to look at potential barriers and obstacles up front. Barriers and obstacles that I hear from prospective students are, how am I going to pay for this? How can I afford this? How am I going to manage my time to be successful in this? What if I'm concerned about math and science, and there's math and science in here? Who are the support services at the college that can help me navigate that? Sometimes it's confidence and fear that paralyzes individuals to just get started. So then we work in our counseling and advising services office to help try to address that fear and build up that confidence to make sure that you feel like you have all the resources in place before you get started. So that's all part of the decision-making, goal setting also. The first two steps is looking at yourself, looking at your options, finding a good fit. Once you think you found a good fit, then how do we get this ball rolling? How do we get this thing started? Baby steps, I say, slow and steady can still complete the race. You don't have to rush through this. And our job is to help you be successful. And for some people, if they're still kind of reluctant or hesitant, not 100% sure they're choosing the right program, sometimes starting out part-time and just a couple classes makes most sense, because you see, motivation is under that personal assessment. Motivation is what sustains you when things seem stressful and overwhelming and hard, and sometimes school can feel that way. But one is having that career goal, knowing why you're doing it. And then the other thing is being able to feel confident that you can, get to the finish line and you have the support within the college to help you get there. This is a visual of that first step, and looking at some of the key components in the handout that I printed for those of you to pick up. If you haven't, you can pick one up after. I think just if you want short and sweet and pretty simple, look at it this way. People that are maximizing their satisfaction and enjoyment in their work, they're doing something they enjoy for the majority of that workday. they're doing something they're skilled at. And I'm not saying it's so easy they're bored, because people that are bored don't like their job. They're watching the clock and waiting till they can get home. But they also don't want a job that's so difficult that it stresses them to the point of, not wanting to go to work because they fear of making a mistake or feel like they're not capable. So there's that balance of challenge and doing it with ease. So once again, some people like more challenge, some things people like more routine and less challenge. So that part of that self-awareness is finding out, what kind of person are you? Are you somebody that wants something where it's changing and challenging and pushing you to learn more? Or are you somebody that likes more organization and more routine, more structure? So we find whatever that looks like for you, and that's what we put in that circle. And then the values would be things like the kind of hours that you want to work. I mean, if you're telling me, I want a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job because I want my weekends, we're probably not going to look at things like, or we're going to have a conversation about careers like maybe criminal justice or nursing, because those are typical careers that will have a 24-hour ability to be working. So many of the criminal justice students will start, for example, in a second shift job, the 2 to 11, one of the more least desirable shifts. Not saying that at some point you might end up at first shift, but knowing that about yourself, if you're just saying, nope, that's my number one value, that I have a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job, then we need to take that into consideration as you're looking at certain careers. If you have a certain wage or salary that you want to meet, we need to take that into consideration. That falls under values. For some people, it could be, I want an opportunity for leadership and higher responsibility. That plays into it. For others, it may be, it's like, for me, one of my number one values is helping others. So I need an occupation in which, and every day, at the end of the day, I've had a direct connection to helping people. So that conversation we have too. And for those of you that are sitting here that have experiencing satisfying, enjoyable occupations, my guess is you can look at each of those circles and you can explain why it's working for you and why it's a good fit. And for those of you that have jobs that have not been very satisfying or are currently not satisfying, my guess is it's because one of those circles isn't meshing with the other. Some people may come in and say, I love what I do and I'm really good at what I do and it's a good skill balance, but I don't want to work these hours anymore. I'm working 2 to 11 and I have kids that are involved in activities after school, and I never see my kids because they're in school when I'm home or we're sleeping. So then all of a sudden the value of family interferes with the work value of the hours. So we have a lot of conversation about those circles. And then we also talk about life circumstances, and that's just that individual piece. I know everybody comes to me with their own individual story. And usually that story involves some obstacles or some barriers that they need help sorting through and addressing. For some, it can just be fear of making a decision. And we need to work through that, because we can fill in the circle of interest, skills, and values. But if there's that paralyzing fear of, what if I make a mistake? What if I choose the wrong program? We need to work through that, because otherwise you'll just be stuck in that trying to figure out what I want to do. Okay? This slide is really, I don't spend a lot of time in this presentation talking about it, but we do use a career development theory that's been around since the 1960s. And this actually helps us determine, based on the information about your personality and your skills and your interests, helps us cluster the types of jobs that makes most sense for you to do in terms of exploration. So just quickly, I'll go around the hexagon. The realistic jobs tend to be jobs where people are more attracted to working with their hands, things, maybe more mechanically inclined. So we call those doers, people that like to solve problems by doing, maybe fixing things, repairing things, working with tools, equipment, that kind of stuff. And the technical college is very supportive, and we have a lot of programs that fit that. The investigative tends to be more analytical problem solvers. So oftentimes the questions that I ask are, do you like problem solving, science, math, investigating, assessing, diagnosing, those types of things fall usually within investigative. Artistic, typically that individual that is highly creative. So using creativity in the work that they do doesn't necessarily mean art. Like somebody might say, I scored really high in the artistic, but I don't draw well, or I'm not musical. Artistic can just mean being creative. So for example, the job of a counselor actually fits somewhat in artistic because our job does require some creativity when we're helping people problem solve. So we try to find out where your characteristics might most gravitate towards to help you begin putting some ideas together of what types of jobs might fit you. The social is supportive occupation. So any career that would involve you supporting other individuals, that could be like teaching, nursing, customer service, anytime where you have like a customer or a patient or a student or a client where your role is to help support that person, chances are it would fall within the jobs under that category. And there's certain characteristics that fit people that do well and enjoy those jobs. Enterprising tends to be leaders and persuaders and managers, people that like to make decisions, take risks, lead others. There's certain, once again, those characteristics that make a person well suited and find those jobs satisfying. And then the last one is conventional, and those are people that tend to like structure and rules and organization. So if you're somebody that gravitates and I guess does well in those kind of environments, and we learn that about you through exploring your skills and traits and interest, then we look for jobs in that category. So this slide is really just up there to say that we do use a well-studied career theory to help pool the things that you're telling us to help you identify clusters of jobs that may be most satisfying for you. Okay, so unsure of your career path. What you want to do is register for one of our career development workshops. The schedule is the one with the green heading on that we have throughout the college. You probably found it in different tables. If you ever gone up to anybody tonight and said you're not sure what program you might be interested in, you probably got handed one of these. We run these throughout the school year, and we try to offer different times to support people's different schedules. We also do offer one-on-one career planning. So if for some reason you watch our workshop offerings and none of them fit your schedule, know that you can call our counseling office and explain that you haven't been able to attend a workshop because they don't fit your schedule, and they'll schedule you to meet with someone one-on-one. For the person that really is unsure or has multiple ideas and can't really seem to land on one, this is the best approach to take, is to spend and invest the time in going through this process, doing some assessments, working with a career counselor to help sort through that thinking and get some ideas for career exploration. And even if you're somebody that maybe you're thinking you're conflicted between maybe two programs and you just want to sit down with somebody that's non-judgmental, that's not going to give you advice, but just listen to your thinking process, maybe offer you some additional information to think about, you can make an appointment to do that too. So if, it ranges in terms of what we see in our office for people that need the support. It ranges from people that just really have no idea or have so many ideas that they don't know where to start, to people that maybe have an idea, but they are stuck in making a decision because they feel like they need some more validation. Keep in mind, like that myth, as a career counselor, I'm not going to give you that validation and tell you, yep, that's what you should do. But what I will do is help you kind of sort through that process to see, what are the interests that you're seeing that you're connected to? What are your values? What are the skills that you'd like to develop? And does that does that make sense? And then I'll probably also remind you that there's more than one right occupation for you, and this may be one of them, but don't be so stuck on what if I make a mistake, because I've seen that paralyze way too many people from moving forward because that fear is so great. Does anybody have any questions about our process or how we can assist you or help you? Anybody? Because chances are, if you have a question, you've heard this before, there's somebody else sitting here that has the same question.
Things at a total of 6 hours for a workshop. Now here you have times. Is that just the starting time?
It says 6 hours. That first one in Watoma is only set up for 4 hours. Most of them are 3 days, 2 hours each day. And there's a couple, like the Saturday one is 6 hours. That first one in Watoma is 4 hours, and somebody just pointed that out to me at the last session. My guess is in Watoma, we have much smaller groups. Sometimes we only have like 4 or 5 people sign up for one. So my guess is the individual that does them out there has just decided to set it up as a 4-hour workshop, because in Appleton, oftentimes we'll have about 16 people, and there is some group work and discussing. So we typically use that 6 hours, and oftentimes we include a tour of some program areas as part of it. So with the exception of Watoma, they're all 6 hours, and they can either be 2 3 hours, 3 2-hour sessions, or I have that Saturday one put up as a 6-hour. Okay, and know that people that do the workshop, maybe I said this already, this is what happens when I do 3 of these. People that take them range anywhere from juniors in high school to people of every decade. People with a lot of work experience. Some people come to the workshop already having college degrees and a lot of work experience. We have some people that come to the workshop that have dropped out of high school and are currently pursuing their HSED at our college. So regardless of what your background is, the process is the same. It's self-awareness, it's exploration, and it's decision making. So, and then we factor in the reality of your life circumstances as part of that. And that's why even with the group, we meet with every student at least one individual appointment. I did have a question at the last session that somebody said, is this just for your students? It's for our continuing students that might find themselves in a wrong program or not fitting in a program like they had hoped. And it's the vast majority of the people we serve are for prospective students, people in the community. And the question was, well, what happens if, you're interested in something the technical college doesn't offer? We support in helping you navigate this just the same. If your interest is in being a music teacher, Fox Valley Technical College can't help you. But if that's where you land after you go through this process, most certainly I will help you navigate how that can happen and help give you information on how you research schools and make that happen. But also know that I will also encourage you to start your education here at Fox Valley Technical College. And I share my own personal story on that. I have 3 children, all went on for degrees in which required a bachelor's degree, but the youngest one listened to me, and she did her first year here with her general studies, and she's a junior now, and she's studying social work and music, so fields that, careers she couldn't pursue here. However, she most likely will graduate without student loans, unlike her brother and her sister, because she spent her first year living at home, so she had no living expenses on a college campus, and then she was able to work and take some classes here that transferred then. So if you choose a career that's going to require something more or other than what we can offer, I'm certainly going to help you navigate as part of, once again, it's going to depend on your decision making and goal setting and your life circumstances. My son said, absolutely not. I'm getting out of the house, and he lived in the residence hall and he didn't work and he had to take out student loans. So that was the reality of his circumstance. So everybody can make their own decisions. I just hope that I can help navigate and give you the options to make those. Okay. I think we're right at 6:30. So I'll stick around if people have questions they'd like to ask independently. I can do that for you. So thanks for coming. Yeah. Sure. There's two right there. Okay. Yep. So I assume I can just leave this.
Yeah, I'll just turn everything.
Okay. Because I was just signed in as student, so I didn't